Yeah, I'm recovered now.
Yeah. Are people in need, let's say, better able to recognize a
What do you mean
master's
need,
outflow?
needing what? What do you mean? Need?
Well, let's say in crisis or some suffering, are they more sensitive to and better able to recognize a master's outflow?
People in need? Maybe. I mean, most people don't need, but can recognize something spiritual, let's say, or creative. They can recognize it's common. It's built into all of us to recognize the creative, but not everybody's capable of it. But people can recognize it. Right? Look at how many fans you have of musicians, that have to deal with massive amounts of people. Say, not all of them have a need, but they have a need to hear the music because that's the stage they're at as they're growing up. And of course, many of them grow beyond that music or become musicians themselves, or maybe go into a monastery beyond all music because they're tired of hearing things. So just step on the path. And then it's the level of the master that we hear. There has to be a certain tone in terms of the universal scope of the message. And then the love behind it, which is like open to all beings. Do I refuse people? I can't refuse people. Now, if there's a person who it is determined as harmful, and I have to be careful. A lot of people have come to me who are self-destructive. Not even musicians, but often they're musicians. I have to bring them, settle down to peace. Bring them to a certain quiet place inside themselves. So it's good to express that in a manner of speaking. And it's all part of the outflow of the teacher. So part of the outflow of the teacher is quietness, stillness, and then ferocity is needed.
Would you say that suffering increases sensitivity?
To a certain degree, let's say. At a certain point in the path, you're suffering. You become sensitive to your own suffering, and then maybe that leads you to become sensitive to the sufferings of other people. And if we're talking about a progression, then that means you become sensitive enough to the intelligence of the karmic flows that create suffering, and how people are extending that and repeating and perpetuating that is the suffering by way of how they think, how they feel, and what they do that creates suffering or amounts to self-destructiveness or self-negating, self-defeating suffering.
So the master needs detachment so they're not done in.
It's all about detachment. The whole idea of the outflow is because it's openness. It's detachment. It is detachment. That doesn't mean negating people. It means being on a certain level where you can be of service to people regardless of where they are, if you're free to speak. And it's the enlightenment of speech that handles the rest of it, if it may be so.
It's the question of, does one lift up the other, or does one drag down the other?
What is the other?
The other being.
It's always about lifting the person up. It's never about dragging them down. They're already being dragged down by their own tendencies and programs and their own negative agreements. That's already happening, so people need to lift up. But not everybody wants to be lifted up, in the same way. People want help, there's no question about it. But they're so materialized, the kind of help that they think they need and feel they need is not sufficient to bring them to a level of realization that is beyond the suffering they've created for themselves.
What is it that creates an attachment to suffering?
Blood, tendency, programming, bondage instincts, born of the family. The idea is to transform that into attachment to wisdom people. So then you have a better chance of surviving the damage of the family, the clan mentality. I'm breathing in that. Even Buddha said that. Abandon your families. Come to the Dharma. That means you're closed-mindedness in terms of family. Come to the Dharma, experience, intelligence, universal awareness.